This series of videos is going to be a recap of what we covered in the January 2025 Memphis Python user group. What we did there was a data science workshop, and I'm going to recreate and review what we did. Now, as I mentioned in the workshop, we are going to be using a GitHub Codespace, and GitHub Codespaces are free to use for up to 60 hours per month. The only price of admission is a free personal GitHub account, and that's actually what I'm using here. Codespaces are basically Visual Studio Code running in the browser backed by a compute or a Linux compute instance, and I'll show you how you can preserve those free hours here in just a minute. But let's get started by creating a Codespace. I'm going to just use this blank Codespace for tonight. So I'm going to say use this template. And I'm not speeding this up. This is in real time because I want you to see how quickly you can create one of these Codespaces. Generally, they take less than 30 seconds to start. And here we go. We are, almost ready to go. There we go. So now we have a Codespace. And like I said, you can use these for free for up to 60 hours a month. Let me show you how you can conserve some of those free hours. If you go to your GitHub homepage, and then you click on your avatar here in the upper right, and you go down to Settings, and then scroll down to Code Planning and Automation, and finally click on Codespaces and scroll down to Default Idle Timeout. So as it says here, a Codespace will suspend after a period of activity. By default, this is 30 minutes. So if you don't touch a Codespace by default for 30 minutes, it's going to save state and it will stop consuming your free quota, or if you're paying for it, stop billing you. Now you can set this to any amount between 5 minutes and 240 minutes, or 4 hours. I find the 5 minutes to be a little bit limiting, so I have mine set to 10. So all you do is highlight the value that's in there, type a new one to replace it, hit save, and then it says your idle timeout has been updated and you're ready to go. The other way that you can conserve your free hours is by stopping the Codespace explicitly. To do that, you'll go down here to the lower left-hand corner where you see the name of the Codespace. Click it. The command palette will come up, and then you can click Stop Current Codespace, and that will suspend the Codespace manually. Outside of that, let's get this Codespace set up. We're going to need to do a couple of things. First of all, you can see that the font size is a little bit small. That's on my screen. On your screen, it may be fine. But I'm going to hit, or actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to press Control-Shift-P, Command-Shift-P on the Mac, and I'm going to search for Settings in the Command palette, and then I'm going to select Open Settings, or Preferences Open Settings UI. And this is going to bring up, you can get lost down a rabbit hole with all these settings. Visual Studio, or rather GitHub Codespaces, is very customizable. But what I want to do here is I just want to set 2 here. I want to bump up the font size to 22 for the editor. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to, actually, I need to search for font size first. There we go. And I'm going to bump up the terminal to 22 as well, and you'll see the font size has increased. One more thing before we get started. I want to install a couple of extensions. Now, Visual Studio Code and thus GitHub Codespaces, because they're very, very similar. In fact, 99.9% of what I do in these videos, you're going to be able to do on Visual Studio Code without modification. And one of the things that you'll be able to do is install these extensions. Now, like I said, out of the box, it's pretty boring. It doesn't do a whole heck of a lot, and that's actually a good thing because that means it doesn't come with any opinions about what kind of application you're developing or anything like that. Instead, you have at least 30,000, we may be up to 40,000 by now, extensions that you can install and customize GitHub Codespaces to meet your needs. So if you click on the extensions icon over here, by default, it's going to show you all of the extensions sorted by popularity. If you don't see them sorted by popularity, you can go up here to the filter icon and then right here, most popular. But there's just two extensions that we're going to need here. The first one is the Python extension from Microsoft. You can see here more than 150 million downloads. So it's very popular. The Python community has embraced Visual Studio Code and GitHub Codespaces, and Microsoft has reciprocated. Click the green install button. This will take just a few seconds to install. But while that's working, let's go ahead and get the other one started off. Jupyter. We're going to be using Jupyter Notebook tonight, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. But for now, let's go ahead and install it. Again, click the green install button, and you'll be ready to go. So that's all I'm going to do in this video. In the next video, we will get started coding.